regulars. I'm playing the old regulars here. We've got a few new people, so good to see. Welcome along.
I missed a couple because first day, Saturday was actually working day for some people. And then I was on holiday.
Okay. Well, glad you could join us today. So, your name is?
Mika.
Mika. Okay, I remember your name from the meetup. And
I'm Mark.
Mark?
Yeah.
Okay. And you
Marco.
Right?
Marco.
Marco. Okay, Marco and Mark. Okay. Everyone else, we can continue during break time and get to know each other. Okay, so today's our third class in the Essentials of Buddhist Practice. Today we're going to focus on the Four Noble Truths. We've already touched on some of these elements here in last week's class when we talked about karma and cause and effect. But still, the Four Noble Truths is a very core part of a lot of Buddhist teachings. Now, just even before we jump into the content, just a little note on the very expression, the Four Noble Truths. I'm using what has become kind of a standard English Buddhist term now. This is very much kind of the standard term. But in more technical circumstances, I sometimes wouldn't quite use this term. For a couple of reasons it's worth pointing out. First thing is, we talk about truths. Usually when we talk about a truth, we're talking about something like objective thing. Goes with the terms of objective reality or what have you. But often in a Buddhist context, what we're referring to by a truth here is, and perhaps many other things as well, maybe not quite so objective as we think. What we're talking about by these is a kind of understanding in the part of a practitioner. Okay? It's a kind of an understanding or a realization. So that's just a little note on the truth. Term noble is also a bit kind of weird. I mean, what do you think of when you think of the term noble? King, maybe somebody wearing armor, jousting or something, I don't know. Some kind of old feudal society. Now, it comes from the term Arya, or Aryan. Now we know, of course, that this has certain connotations in 20th century Europe, but the term definitely doesn't begin there. It's a very ancient term from almost all Indo-European languages. And in a social context in ancient India, it was used to refer to so-called noble people. So in the old caste system, the Brahmins considering themselves the highest caste, and therefore they were like the highest or most noble. However, and particularly in a Buddhist context, it has absolutely no social connotation at all. And the term Aryan was used to refer to spiritual practitioners that had really deeply understood these kinds of truths. We could say that people that had these spiritual insights or realizations. Now the Buddha did that with a lot of terms. He took terms and concepts that had a kind of maybe like a social context or something, but he gave them what we might call a spiritual or an ethical redefinition. So I think that's been part of the problem and why very early on in English they use noble, whereas it's got this different sense. So how would I translate that? In another context I would translate that as holy. But of course some people also think too many connotations with Christian thought. For myself, kind of been a long time since I've done much to do with Christianity. I don't have that problem, but I want to spell that out to you about how to make you think about it.
Just a comment because my own language is Finnish and not English. So we used for the noble, we actually, I think it's just retranslation from the English
Yep.
or something like that, but then the word is not so much, means something like honorable or something like this.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like it probably comes more from the English term noble.
Yes.
And I mean, I can't comment on Finnish translations in Buddhism, but I do know,
They're bad.
particularly in some of the Eastern European languages, a lot of their material doesn't come from original sources. It's retranslations of English, and then slight confusion gets compounded.
Yes. I mean, most of it is not from primary sources, but kind of secondary.
So then what they're referring to then, okay, the last number, 4, not problematic. 4 is still 4, okay, so that's something we can stick with. So when we're thinking about what do we mean by these are 4 types of spiritual insight. And the people that, in a sense, it's the people that have these insights that are then considered noble or aryan. So it's that very insight itself that makes one have this like attainment. That's the very attainment that's being referred to. Okay, so what are these terms? Okay, the first one. Look at these 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's look at the dot. Okay, the first one. I'm going to read it as dissatisfaction. We'll get into the explanation for each of them in a minute. The second one is I'm going to read it as the cause. Sometimes they say it as the origin. The third one, cessation. And this one is also that now in English established term of nirvana. And then the last one is the path. And it's the path to the cessation. In slightly more drawn out terms, it's dissatisfaction, the cause of dissatisfaction, the cessation of dissatisfaction, and the path to the cessation of dissatisfaction. In slightly longer terms. Yep.
Did you, like, why is form of the truth important?
Why is point of, well, okay, so it's a core part of Buddhist practice. In a certain sense, all Buddhist teachings and practices can fit into this somehow. They constitute some part within this. It's the last one here that's really Buddhist practice of what sort of is to be done. Normative Buddhism, like, so okay, if you're a Buddhist, you want to do Buddhist, what do you do? That's really the path. But if, for some people you can just tell them, oh, just do this or do that. But I think for most people, they want to know, well, why do I do this? Right?
And it's
Why should I do these things?
It's the first teaching of the Buddha.
It was the first teaching of the Buddha. So if you remember back to our story in week 1, so after his awakening, and they sort of, okay, I finally realized this kind of truth of, and do you remember what was his goal? The goal of his practice. Can you remember that? An old story from 2 weeks ago?
To get away from this circle of like ups and downs, ups and downs.
Yeah, so to get rid of that cycle of rebirth. So when we're talking about then the cessation as nirvana, that is the end of that cycle. Right? So after he realized this, he thought, like, wow, this is very profound, it's very difficult to understand. So who can I teach? He thought of his former teachers, realized that they were no longer alive, and then he went to find his 5 friends who he had been practicing asceticism with. And the first thing he had to do was convince them to give up that extreme asceticism, and then after that he taught them these truths. So despite the fact that this was the kind of first teaching, however, and it's definitely worth pointing this out, that the Buddha himself took all of his teachings and said, you've got 2 basic categories. Basic teachings on the 4 Noble Truths, which are intended to lead the practitioner to this kind of liberation from psychic existence, were pretty much, back in that time, only given to the monastic community. It was not entry-level teaching. For laity, typically what was taught were teachings on what we might call ways to achieve happiness in this life and in future lives. It wasn't to try to get out of the cycle, but like, okay, there's still big problems in this life, and how do we try to resolve those problems? How do we become happier, more successful, whatever. And also in future lives as well. But that kind of step of like, okay, you really want to just get rid of this whole cycle altogether, it wasn't like a common teaching for laity. Now, you might be thinking, well, then why are we doing it now? Well, one simple reason is almost anything that you read on Buddhism these days will include this stuff. What's often happened with kind of a lot of contemporary teachings, and there's even more so in places where people practice Mahayana Buddhism, is they sort of say, oh, well, Four Noble Truths, this is just entry-level Buddhism, as though it was something very, very simple. It's not. But I still think, even if we maybe don't necessarily have the same goal, the framework still works. And understanding this framework and understanding how these things work together is helpful at whatever kind of level we're practicing at, or whatever kind of goal we're looking for in our practice. Yeah. So I still think it's very valuable. Okay. Now, just when we look at these four, as I said, like the first one's dissatisfaction, the second one's the cause and origin of dissatisfaction. There's a whole causality relationship going on within these four. And last week we touched a little bit on karma as cause and effect, and we can definitely see the kind of same underpinnings here. So the way it's usually seen is like this. I mean, okay, we're calling this on cause. So this is obviously the cause of this one here, which is the effect. This one is the cause of this one. And in really simple terms, going back to what we talked about last week, this is those afflicted mental states of craving, aversion, ignorance, jealousy, pride, and so on and so forth. And their basic result is this kind of dissatisfaction, the problem, the basic fundamental problem. Now, you might ask, and it's a very understandable question, so why do you start with the effect and then you go to the cause? Okay, but then it's like a lot of things. Why do you have breakfast in the morning? And you wake up and you're hungry. Right? And you want to resolve the hunger, so you know that food is going to resolve the hunger. We usually start from the problem. It's only when we have a problem that we feel the need to respond to it. Unless we're like some incredibly like organised, amazingly proactive person. But to be honest, most of us aren't. We're kind of like, okay, wait for the problem to come and then I'm going to do something about it, right? So, similar kind of idea here. Problem. Oh, what's the cause of the problem? Right? And then, that's not enough. Well, it's very important to know the cause of the problem. How about these two? Cessation is basically problem solved, right? Resolution. Problem is solved. And the path is the means to solve the problem. That's kind of the method by which it's solved. So you could say, hunger due to lack of food. I want to attain a state of feeling nourished, and therefore my means is what? Eat food. Okay. You know, I'm going to throw out another like incredibly simple example. Anything, just like any slightest little problem. Now, how did you come here today? Right? Problem. Not at the place where I want to be. What's the cause? Because I'm somewhere else. Right? My goal is to be at that place. Method is find some means of transport to get there. Right? Pretty simple kind of idea. So one way you can think about it in just sort of in really general terms, like problem, reason for the problem, resolution, and means to attain that resolution. And now, within that kind of, if we think of it in that frame, another very common metaphor or analogy that is used is that of medicine. So we can think, what would this be? Illness, right? The cause cause is
The illness,
It's different.
I thought dissatisfaction would be the symptom. You
okay.
notice the
Yeah,
symptom.
strictly speaking, I think you're probably right. Yeah. So then, then this one here would be the illness itself. Okay, good point. Very well stated. Actually, this would be the symptoms. Right? Maybe coughing, discomfort. The illness may be, I don't know, you had some virus or something, right? The cessation would be, now normally again, we don't normally think of, oh, I wish I can attain a state of not having a virus. We don't think like that. We normally think, I wish I could stop coughing, right? We still tend to think like, I wish I could be without those symptoms. There's a virus in my body, but it doesn't cause me any pain. To be honest, I don't care. I mean, our whole bodies are full of all sorts of like little things. No, I'm not talking about ourselves. And then what's my method, right? I need to maybe take some medicine which kills the virus or something. Antibiotics. So this is a pretty common way of talking about this whole structure. And I think if we think of it in that way, like I said, well, in ultimate terms, this was designed for, dissatisfaction, the whole problem of psychic existence and then how to solve it. But we can also look at these in terms of individual problems as well. And in some ways it's more helpful to think of it that way and deal with problems individually than kind of think like everything is just one big problem which has one big cause which I can solve by doing one big thing. My kind of panacea, I do this one thing. Though, of course, there are a number of Buddhist teachings that are kind of like this. Just practice this one method. I've got this ultimate Dharma teaching. Solve all your problems. Right? It's easy to sell. Practical terms might not quite work so simply. Okay, so let's get back to a bit more detail on these. So let's talk about this term dissatisfaction. Now this one here, technical term, is this term dukkha. And this is, again, in kind of very common English translation, very commonly translated as suffering. Have you seen this term used in Buddhism? Yeah. Now, I really don't dig it. It doesn't work in this context. Basically, this term, like almost every word, many different meanings in different contexts, right? In some contexts, when we're talking about like feelings, sensations, dukkha does mean suffering or pain, and it's contrasted with another word called sukha. So sukha is like pleasant, dukkha is like unpleasant or painful. So in that context, it works. However, when we're talking about this one here, we're not just talking about things that are like painful. It runs much more subtle than that. We are including things that are painful. Things that are painful are also dissatisfactory. Right? We kind of don't like them. But if we look on a deeper level, there are also some things which can be quite pleasant or pleasing, but are still dissatisfactory. And the Buddha himself kind of emphasized that. He says, you can't really claim that everything's painful, because some things aren't. This was a bit of counterclaim against, remember we talked about the Jains, the Jaina religion in that first week? The Jainas honestly believed that everything was painful, probably because they were doing asceticism. But Buddha said, no, some things are actually very pleasant. Even like a deep meditative state might be very blissful, very pleasant. It's not painful at all. But it's dissatisfactory. And so when we dig deeper into why are things dissatisfactory, okay, we need to dig down on the levels of the very fact that things are impermanent and they change, that they're conditioned, and that conditioned nature is often outside of our control. In fact, really, how many things in this world are under our control? Nothing. How many things are really under our control? Not that much, to be honest. Right? So even when situations are maybe on the good side, there is often this underlying dissatisfaction that we have towards them. Okay. Speaking though in more like specifics, traditionally dissatisfaction is broken up into eight different like items. First one, I'll list you the first four. Birth, aging, disease, and death. So the very first four of these eight are just, it's really just life cycle. I mean, it's just life. You know, how many, I think I asked you before, how many of you have been born before? Please raise your hand. Okay, right. Sorry. Spontaneously
I don't know.
rose from the head of Zeus.
I don't know unless I see it.
Yeah, don't remember it, but it probably happened. How many of you are aging? Okay. Mark, you're okay with that? Got some Taoist elixir going on or something? Okay, is aging a pleasant feeling? Now, probably a few of you a bit younger. So I'm quite enjoying getting mature and people kind of give me a bit more respect. You get to a certain, I mean, I'm not that old, but I know you get to a certain point in life where you're like, no, right? And it's not that old, right? Everything kind of starts to go downhill. Disease, who likes disease? And no thanks. Death doesn't sound like a lot of fun. Okay, now, these first four out of the 8 in dissatisfaction, these we can also say are not just dissatisfaction, they're painful. They are not pleasant things, right? So that's pretty easy. These really are like painful things which are dissatisfactory. Okay, then we've got another 3, slightly more interesting and more kind of situation specific. Right? These are just like life, that's just a life cycle thing. The next one then is separation from the desired, association with the, let's just say, despised, and not getting what you want. Okay. So these are kind of circumstances, situations. First, being separated from what you want. Some people explain these two as like the desire and the despise is people. So being separated from the people you love. But I think it really means something much broader. Being separated from things that you like. Okay, simple example. Have you ever lost your cell phone? Or that really horrible one where you get up from the bathroom and it slips out of your pocket and lands on the toilet bowl. It hasn't happened to me, but I can imagine it sounds pretty unpleasant. Not just the fact that it's in the toilet bowl, but just like that whole thing. Is that a pleasant experience? No, it's very dissatisfactory. Right? So it can even just be losing things. You lose your wallet. Just thinking you've lost your wallet. Okay. We could take it up to the big level, you know, losing loved ones, family, friends, leaving, going to another city, another town, another country, passing away, dying. These are also painful experiences. They're dissatisfactory. They do not make us satisfied, happy people. The flip side is association with the despised. Things that you don't like, and they happen to us, basically. So it could be people. Maybe you have to work in a place with someone who you just really, he drives you crazy, but you're stuck in the same office with them all the time. Or maybe a roommate or something like that. But it can be other circumstances too. Right? Again, are these present? No. And then the last one, not getting what we want. Who's had this happen to them? Right? Okay. How often does it happen?
Many times a day.
Yeah, many times a day. It's happening right now. This isn't measuring up. Yeah, probably.
Actually, yes.
I mean, you can kind of say, you know, even a situation, even if you might come along, I mean, some of you have come back So obviously it's not too bad. But if I was to, have you answer honestly, you say it's not like the perfect class. It could be better, right? So things that they can be pretty good. They can be pleasant and enjoyable, but it doesn't really necessarily mean satisfaction. Like I just went to that class once. It was so good, I don't need to go back. There's lots of things like that in life. If they really satisfied us, we wouldn't need to do them over and over again. Now it's also interesting when we look at these three. Like I said, these are more situational. And let's think of these first two as well. And if we recall, when we were talking about the causes and origins, do you remember our core three mental issues that create this dissatisfaction? Create that bad karma we talked about last week. Yeah, aversion's one. Yep.
Ignorance.
Ignorance and
Desire.
desire. Okay, so normally the order is desire, aversion, and ignorance. Separation from the desired. This problem comes from desiring things, right? We want something, or we love something, we have affection for something. So when it's taken away from us, is that pain season. This is the flip side. This only happens because of things that we don't like, we have aversion to. This one here is also a bit more on the desire side, because we want things, right? So these are really fairly simple examples to see how they tie in with the cause thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, just really fundamental life cycle problems. 3, situational ones that we can clearly see being associated with emotional states. Now there's one more. Now this is quite a bit more subtle. The 5 aggregates. Now this term here is quite a technical term. It is basically the Buddhist analysis of typically a person, but you could apply or adapt it to other living beings as well. They are the physical body. What I translate as sensations, otherwise often translated as feelings. Sensations that are pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. Perceptions / conceptions. These are more the thinking part. My mind can see things or perceive things, identify, oh, this is a whiteboard, this is a wall, this is Mark, right? And more complex ones, obviously. Today's weather is a little bit cooler, right? These are dealing with perceptions, and then we bring different elements and we form concepts. The fourth one's a bit more complex. I think one of the simplest ones is really to call it emotions. And this includes the karma that we talked about last time. See, literally emotions as in like emotions, things that make us move. Right? So we have pleasant feelings through things we see or hear or smell or taste or touch. The mind has a movement towards them. Pleasant things, we are attracted to them, and we experience suffering when we're separated from them, or we experience suffering when we try to get them but we can't. When we have painful sensations, what do? How do we react when we have painful experiences?
We want it to work.
Get your hand on the hot element. Just like instantaneous, right? Withdrawal and aversion from that thing, right? Painful experiences, we have this desire to be freed from them. It's the pain of that contact initially. If we can't get away, there's that ongoing pain as well. And we also, of course, have other issues as well that are not necessarily based purely on the sensations of pleasure or pain, but often our perceptions and concepts start to form kind of a sense of self. And it's a little more complex, we can get into this in a moment. And often that sense of self that we have is also a very important driving force in these as well. And it's interesting, what tends to happen is the things that we experience as being pleasant, we want to get close to, we kind of want to, I always imagine it's like this, like, if you imagine like my sense of me at the center, and then extending out from that I have a sense of, not me, but things that belong to me, and then the further I go away, kind of neutral zone, and then it kind of gets into a land where things that I definitely don't want to be me, right? Things are like me, the non-me, the opposite of me. And what we tend to do is we tend to try to get the pleasant things and draw them closer into our orbit of self, and the painful things we tend to try to drive them outside. So it can work from the emotional quality. Pleasant thing drawing in, and then identifying that pleasant thing as me or mine. But it can work the other way as well. Sometimes I can start from a sense of who I am, and then I push or pull based on that. I think I'm politically on the left. Therefore, when I see anything that might be politically on the right, I reject it. Right? I don't necessarily sit down and think about it, is that like actually like a good idea or not? But I have this identity, this concept or perception of who I am, and then I start to draw and push. So it's kind of interesting, the sensations, pleasant, painful, the concepts of self, what me, mine, and they're like not me, not mine, they rely on each other, and they pull each other, and they twist and like draw each other together. It's quite a complicated experiment. And this is the pushing and the pulling is what we're referring to here as the emotions. The last one, I usually read that as cognition. This is often translated as consciousness. This is kind of ethically neutral thing. That's just like seeing. So if you've got your eyes open right now, can you see? Okay, that's the seeing. Can you hear? That's hearing. Now when I say seeing, I don't mean, oh, I can see the clock, I can see the camera. No. As soon as I say the clock, I've got a perception. As soon as I see the camera, I've got a perception. And as soon as I think, oh, that person has a very lovely voice, it's very pleasant, I'm not talking about cognition, I'm now talking about sensation. So this last one is just a very bare conscious awareness of things. And the active content of that is our sensations, perceptions, and emotions. Okay, why do we get onto this? I'll get back to just a sec. All these here come into our last category of dissatisfaction. Why? Basically a couple of reasons. Because they are impermanent and they are conditioned. Meaning they are out of our control. We'd like to think they are. I mean, this is what we think of as me, but actually most of these things are just quite out of our control. And that leaves us with this very subtle level of dissatisfaction. Yep.
Sorry, I just didn't get the difference between the first two, between physical and sensations. Physical and sensations.
Okay, so the physical here is just the body. Just the meat lump, bone and skin and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. And that of course includes our five physical sense organs. So the physical eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body.
Mm-hmm.
But then those senses, their operation, then we start to get into here. I mean, to spell out the kind of process, I've actually got quite a nice little funky PowerPoint I could show on this. I don't have time for that. Like a process like this. So let's imagine that this is something, that's this, I'm going to assume you like coffee. This is my like amazingly delicious cup of coffee here. So I walk into the room. This coffee itself is a physical thing. Here's my physical body, including my eyes and my senses. when this here is here, and this here is here, and there's light, and there's nothing in the way. I have a sense object, I have a sense organ, I will have visual cognition. I see it. I will also have, for example, these little like particles in the air, and I've got a nose. I can smell it. The coffee kind of looks pleasant. I mean, coffee doesn't look that. Maybe it's got a really nice, pretty little fancy design on the top or something. The smell, I might think, smells pleasant. I might have a perception. Coffee, I might think, oh, it's I don't know, some fancy, foreign, expensive, delicious coffee. I have that thought come up in my head, that perception, right? So what do? It looks good, it smells good, I have a concept, and the concept might just be a cup of coffee. It might be, maybe I think I'm a real coffee connoisseur. I think, oh, that smells like some amazing, I don't know, Ethiopian, Highland, something, 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 which I read in a magazine is some of the best coffee. There might be a bit of ego going on here too, right? I might think it's pleasant just simply because some status idea about the coffee. Okay. Complex stuff is going on like within a second. How do I react? I go get it. I fight off everyone else in the way. Well, maybe not. Imagine if there was somebody else sitting there with their hand, not touching the coffee, their hand right here. Would I get it? Probably not. I mean, I don't think
You've got it either way.
out of the way, dude. This coffee's mine. So why not? Why would, say, a person sitting there like that stop me? I'm going to have another perception, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what would that perception be? That coffee is theirs. Now this is a mental construct going on right here, right? If the coffee is theirs, it's socially unacceptable to go and steal someone's coffee. I mean, maybe if it was like my best buddy, I might get away with it. Oh, what's out the window? Just drink your coffee. Yeah. If it's a stranger, unless I'm looking for a fight, probably I'm not going to do it. I mean, there's a whole lot of conceptualization going on here, again, based around this whole, is it mine? It's whatever. Let's say I paid for it. Again, this whole paying for thing, this, I give you paper, you give me flavored water in a cup, now it belongs to me. It's entirely a mental construct, right? And it's all based around the sense of self, right? Buying things. As soon as that exchange goes, magically it becomes not that person's, it becomes mine. The coffee has not changed. The concept's changed. So I have the movement towards, I want the coffee. Now it starts as a mental thing, right? But it will be again accompanied by action. So remember last week we talked about the 3 doors of karma? Remember those 3? The first one was the mental, and then physical and verbal, right? I say, that's mine, right? And then I have an action towards. I take it. What am I doing there when I start drinking it? Okay, then I'm going to add other levels of cognition. Now I'm going to have taste as well. My visual cognition, and then my visual sensations and perceptions are going to intensify. My olfactory from smelling and tasting ones are going to get intensified. If it was pleasant, it's going to be longer. If I'm a sample savor. What are we doing there? We're just trying to prolong the pleasant sensation, right? We're trying to intensify it. I'd hold it up, look at it in the light. And think of what we do when we're kind of really into something. Trying to get as much pleasure and enjoyment out of that as we can. It's a feedback loop, right? It's a feedback loop. It's not intensive. Yep. So you get kind of an idea of this process. Now this, all the details of this can be really quite complex, and Buddhist psychology is a very big and broad field. This is just the essentials. The reason I want to use these 5 is because within the classic definition of dissatisfaction, we get these 8. Birth, aging, disease, and death. They're just painful. These ones are kind of painful, but also kind of a bit more subtle level. But when we're saying that these 5 aggregates, all these elements that make up who I am as a person, are also dissatisfactory. Note, the sensations could be pleasant. I'm not saying that if you're enjoying a cup of coffee, it's going to be unpleasant. It could be quite pleasant, but it's still going to be dissatisfactory. Right. So why? And these are our main reasons here. It's impermanent. They're conditioned. All these things are conditioned. Right? In my whole description of this loop, it's like a feedback loop, right? This constant cycle. And it's not just me interacting with it. Everything else in the room, everything else in the whole universe is involved in every one of these things, right? So a huge amount of that stuff is outside of our control. Even very intense, pleasant sensations and experiences deep level are dissatisfactory. And I think one interesting example of this is, an interesting example is like, say, drug abuse, but you can kind of parallel that and say, in the Buddhist psychology, in fact, almost any kind of craving for pleasure follows the same pattern. You used to go, don't take heroin, don't take cocaine, like sugar. It's like a drug. Well, that's a bit over the top. But actually, the basic, what's really going on, it's kind of the same thing in a way. Pleasant feeling, develops cravings, and so on and so forth. And like a lot of things like that, one of the ironies is that the more you use it, the more you need. And the more you use it, the actual less satisfaction you get out of it. So satisfaction with those kinds of experiences tends to come better in moderation rather than indulgence. Right? Just kind of our threshold of experience just keeps on being pushed up, pushed up, pushed up. Okay. This is dissatisfaction. Now, even when we've been talking about this, hopefully you'll be able to see the elements of the cause here. Right? We talked last week about some of those. Some of them it's kind of easier to see. Not getting what we want. It's something that happens to pretty much everyone. You've got two approaches to dealing with that situation. If you really, really want something, let's say, I don't know, maybe you're a super Apple fan, and you're one of these people that sits in line at the Apple store for 48 hours before the latest release is going to come out. And maybe you finally get to the front of the line and it's sold out. Oh, the pain, the agony. Now you've got two kind of responses to deal with your dissatisfaction of not having the latest iPhone. Any clues on what those two basic responses are? How can you deal with the dissatisfaction of not getting what you want?
Wait for next time.
Yeah. The first one is you just get it. If you got, I need the phone, I need the phone, I need the phone. Well, then when you've got the phone, okay, well, you've got it. So then now you've got what you want. So that kind of dissatisfaction is gone. That's the first response, and that's our usual response. And that, of course, is the response that the world of marketing and advertising wants us to have. But there's another response as well, which is